Back to another video. Today we will be talking about this new poll from YouGov that shows Kamala Harris leading in the state of North Carolina. Now, if you don't know, North Carolina is a relatively red state. They voted for Donald Trump by 1.2% back in 2020, and they voted for him again back in 2016 by some margin. Even in 2012, they might have gone to Mitt Romney. Let me check here. But it is a red state. In 2012, that's 2008. It did go to Romney in 2012, even. The last time it went Democratic was in 2008, where Barack Obama carried it by just 0.33%. So North Carolina is a red state. They go red usually on federal levels, on federal election levels. So seeing Kamala Harris in the lead in North Carolina is just shocking. Now let's look at this poll. And yes, she is leading. I'm not just saying that for dramatic purposes. Percentage, when you round, they are tied, but she did get a couple more responses in the poll than Donald Trump did. So North Carolina, from YouGov, Kamala Harris at 46% of the vote, Donald Trump at 46%, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. all the way down at 2%. His campaign is really crashing and burning. Now, this is commissioned by a Democratic organization. Carolina Forward is a partisan sponsor for the Democratic Party, as 538 puts it. So do I think North Carolina is voting for Kamala Harris in 2024? No. When you look at all the numbers, there's only one poll that shows her ahead or even. The latest poll from Trafalgar, that's a Republican Party sponsor, but Trump is up by 4. In a poll before that, he's up by 3, by 2, by 1, by 3. But it really does speak volume, even if it's not going to her. I doubt that North Carolina votes for Kamala Harris right now. But it does speak more volume to how Donald Trump now has less and less of a path forward, a path to victory, a path to win the election. When Biden was back in the race, sure, he looked a little competitive in the traditional battleground states like the Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, those types of states. But the blue states were also looking increasingly competitive. New Mexico, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Hampshire, these were all looking competitive. But now, the roles have reversed. The battleground states are still competitive, with Harris now having a lot of the blue states locked down, like the ones that were looking competitive with Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee. But now the difference is, that with the blue states, they're now safe under Harris's column. But now, some of these red states are looking a little competitive, most notably North Carolina. Maybe the only one, but it is North Carolina, which is huge. That's 16 electoral votes. That is huge in a presidential race. So, you can just see, even in North Carolina alone, how, Joe Biden, or I should say Kamala Harris, doing much, much better than Joe Biden was, at least in the state, but really at the nation as a whole. We've seen some of the polls, even the polls sponsored by a Democratic, sponsored by a Democratic organization. Trump was ahead by 6, by 9 with a Democratic sponsor, by 7. And then, now we see an even poll. Trump up by 3, by 4, by 2, by 1. So the state of North Carolina looking increasingly competitive, and definitely the exact opposite of what Donald Trump wants to see right now. And, North Carolina, it really makes sense, honestly, that North Carolina could be competitive, but still, it is just crazy to think that the 2024 election could be more Democratic as a whole, as a nation, when you look at the electoral map and the popular vote. It could be more Democratic than the 2020 election. That is just something that we were not expecting to see. When Joe Biden was the nominee, we thought he just had to survive, in the Rust Belt maybe, and he could win the election. Maybe, if he could do that, he could win. But now it looks like Kamala Harris is expanding the electoral map. But as I said, it does make sense. In 2020, North Carolina only voted for Trump by 1.3. Now, 1.3 isn't nothing, but is it doable to shift a state, 2 points, say, or 1.5 points? It is. It's difficult in a national environment that won't be, it definitely won't be a lot more Democratic than 2020 was, but still, it is doable. In the latest Senate races, Ted Budd last year won by 3.2, but in 2020, Tom Tillis only beat Cal Cunningham by 1.7. And then, maybe most importantly, to show that North Carolina is open to voting for Democrats, North Carolina has a Democratic governor, Roy Cooper. Okay, when was his last election? It was in 2020. He was reelected by 4.5%, while Donald Trump won on the presidential ballot by 1.3. So, Democrats, it is possible for them to win in the state of North Carolina. They have a Democratic governor, and maybe with his help, Kamala Harris could possibly pull it off. Now, that would be huge. Again, I don't think North Carolina right now will vote for Kamala Harris. But if they did end up doing it, that would be monumental, just huge for future elections, but this one as well. Let's assume North Carolina goes blue. That's another 16 electoral votes in the Democratic column. Now, this opens the map so much. Kamala Harris can win Michigan, and now she's only 13 away. I absolutely think she carries Michigan, and then she's only 13 away. She could do it with Wisconsin and Arizona. You could go Arizona and Wisconsin, or you could go Arizona and Nevada, at least with those three states. Or you could throw Georgia into the mix as well, but that's probably the least likely to go to her right now. However, there's an even easier path, that being through Pennsylvania. All you need is the state of Pennsylvania, and you're at 276. Donald Trump can have Wisconsin, he can have Arizona, he can have Nevada, he could have Georgia, but still, Kamala Harris wins the election if North Carolina goes in her favor. Now, if North Carolina is going blue, I think that Georgia would go blue. I think that Wisconsin would go blue. I think that Nevada would go blue. And probably Arizona. So, point being, if North Carolina is, in fact, going blue, then that probably signals a pretty huge win for Kamala Harris nationwide. Now, what Harris would have to do here is really capture this African-American vote. That is something that we have been looking at ever since Joe Biden dropped out of the race. How would Kamala Harris perform among African-Americans? That was really a question because, that was a major part of his coalition in 2020. They absolutely turned out for him in 2020. But after a pretty rough economy, after major disapproval among the African-American community, disapproval of Joe Biden's administration, would they turn out for Kamala Harris? But it appears yes. In a recent poll, Kamala Harris polled 70% of black voters. Now look at this increase, up from 59% who backed Biden in May and June polls. Went from 59 under Biden to 70 under Harris. Now, Donald Trump is only taking 12 and 9%, so there are a lot of undecided. So this will probably rise. It doesn't look like she has really any problem getting the African-American vote to turn out for her. So, such an interesting poll here, just because, this does change everything. We have our 6 core swing states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia. And North Carolina is typically red. But even if you add it into that toss-up category, the Republicans will just have to put so much more defense into the state than they would have had to with Joe Biden as the nominee. So North Carolina is so important. Donald Trump really needs it to his path to victory. It is a must-win state, right? If North Carolina is going blue, probably means all the other swing states, or almost all of them, are going blue as well. But just looking at Donald Trump's path to victory, he's got to get North Carolina, and then after that, where does he go? Probably Georgia, probably Arizona, and still, even that doesn't win him the election. Even if he wins Nevada, he doesn't win the election. Oh my God, he doesn't even win without Nevada. He would have to look at the blue wall. Wisconsin definitely the most likely. So thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe down below. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers before Election Day, and we're on track to meet that goal, but please help us out. Drop a subscription, drop a comment to let me hear your thoughts, and I will see you all next time.